Vidimus stellam eius in oriente, et venimus communeribus adorare Dominum.
In our communion antiphon for today's Feast of Epiphany, we see many loquescient neumes. Loquescients draw our attention to the pronunciation of a particular syllable in the text, often a diphthong or a nasal or liquid consonant such as L, M, or N. For example, the second note of stellam, which appears smaller than the first, is a diminished loquescient, which tells us to close to the L sound on stellam. We see the same sort of loquescient on oriente and cum. And we also see loquescients on the first note of eius and the last note of et. These look like a single square note with a little tail at the end. And these are called augmented loquescients because they extend the length of the note rather than closing to the consonant or diphthong immediately. Loquescients, by their very nature, draw our attention to the text, reminding the singer to bring out a particular sound so as to clearly articulate the word, as if to say, make sure to pronounce this word carefully. People need to hear it. So, loquescients are not merely for performance practice, but are at the service of the proclamation of the sacred word. In today's antiphon, the loquescients on stellam, eius, and et venimus call our attention to these words in particular. Stellam eius, his star, springs up and rises above the rest of the melody, just as the star announcing Christ's birth rose in the sky and guided the Magi to the Holy Child. Because they saw this wondrous sign and understood what it meant, the wise men came to Christ to adore him. The loquescient at the end of et calls for the precise pronunciation of the sound between the T of et and the V of venimus. In this way, it serves to accent venimus, we have come, which continues the upward melodic movement that began with et, finally reaching the top note of this antiphon, as eius does. The loquescients placed on these words, combined with the dramatic rising melodies, bring attention to their meaning. The response to seeing the Lord's star is to come to him and adore him. As the surging movement on venimus suggests, the Magi arose with great haste and excitement in response to the sign that they had seen. As we hear this sacred text proclaimed and ponder it in our hearts, may we seek the grace to respond likewise with swiftness, joy, and faithfulness to the signs which God places in our lives.
Vidimus stellam eius in oriente, et venimus communeribus adorare